Welcome. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating and, let's be honest, sometimes challenging topic. We're asking a big question. What happens when the very systems we build to help us understand reality, like religion, end up putting a wall around it instead? We're going to break down how a tool for clarity can, sometimes, become a barrier to truth. So, our whole exploration really kicks off with this powerful idea. The source material argues that a healthy religion isn't supposed to be an escape from reality. It's meant to be a way to engage with it more deeply. Think of it like a lens that's supposed to magnify the truth, not a filter that just blurs everything out. And right there, that's the core issue we're digging into. What happens when that framework, the one designed to bring you closer to truth, actually starts walling you off from it? And this isn't some rare thing. The analysis suggests it's a pattern that can pop up in pretty much any system of belief. Okay, so to really get a handle on how things can go wrong, we first have to talk about how they're supposed to go right. What's the ideal? What is religion's highest purpose when it's actually functioning at its best? Well, when it's working the way it should, it gives us a framework for life's biggest, messiest questions, death, awe, injustice. It helps train our attention, makes us notice things we'd otherwise miss, deepens our humility, and, this is the key, it connects us to what's real, instead of shielding us from it. It's a tool for seeing more, not less. But that ideal can really start to break down. A very subtle but absolutely critical shift can happen on the journey of belief. It's what the source calls a great reversal, where the honest pursuit of truth slowly morphs into the defense of a position. And this shift, it often happens in about 3 stages. We almost always start out as a seeker, right? We're driven by this genuine hunger for what's true. Then we find a group and we become a member, which feels great. That sense of belonging is powerful. But this is where the danger can creep in. That identity can slowly, quietly turn us into a defender, where protecting the group's beliefs becomes job number 1. Now check this out, because the shift really comes down to the core question being asked. A seeker asks, is this true? Simple enough. But a defender asks, how do I keep this true? That one tiny change in wording flips everything on its head. All of a person's mental energy gets redirected. Evidence is no longer a guide, it starts to feel like an enemy. And this is a brilliant way to picture it. For the seeker, your mind, your intellect, it's like a compass. You use it for exploration and discovery. But for the defender, that exact same intellect becomes a shield. Its main job is now to protect a conclusion you've already decided on. And this is where a practice like apologetics can become a real trap. Now, it can be a useful tool for explaining ideas for sure, but way too often it becomes a kind of disciplined imagination for dodging hard evidence. It's a sophisticated way of finding an escape hatch for any intellectual challenge that comes your way. This defensive mindset leads us straight into the next major issue, the problem of unchecked authority. This is what happens when you're asked to trust a source of truth, but you're also, maybe not so subtly, discouraged from ever really checking it out for yourself. And let's be really clear here. Trusting wisdom from other people isn't a bad thing at all. Actually, it's essential if you want to learn pretty much anything. Deferring to experts and to ideas that have stood the test of time, that's just a sign of mature thinking. But here's the catch, right? Religions often love it when you use reason and critical thinking to find your way to their door. But then, once you're inside, that same kind of questioning can suddenly be treated with a lot of suspicion. They welcome your trust, but they can really resist the kind of accountability that should go hand in hand with it. And all of this can build up to what our source calls the single most dangerous sentence a person can ever say. God says. Now, why is it so dangerous? Because it's a conversation stopper. It's designed to shut down any debate. It can turn a simple disagreement into blasphemy, and it gets rid of any real way to hold power accountable. So when you mix that defensive mindset with unchecked authority, a third, incredibly powerful force takes over, the comfort of the tribe. This is where our deep, fundamental human need to belong can start to just completely overshadow our search for what's actually true. And you can see this shift happening in the kinds of questions people start asking. What is true gets replaced by, what do we say is true? And that big, broad ethical question, how should I treat other people? Well, it narrows down to a much smaller, tribal question. Is this person one of us? And the result is, frankly, a pretty dramatic shrinking of our moral world. I mean, look at this. our focus just collapses almost entirely onto our own in-group, the us. And everyone on the outside, the them, they become, at best, a project to be converted, or at worst, a threat that needs to be neutralized. This leads to a huge paradox, one the source calls the sanctified ego. The very religious system that was meant to crush your ego and make you humble can get twisted into a badge of superiority. That feeling of being right just because you belong to the right group can become a really powerful and really dangerous kind of arrogance. So after laying out all these potential ways things can go wrong, the material doesn't just leave us there, which is good. It actually maps out a path back, a way to reclaim a healthy, honest pursuit of truth even when you're inside a strong belief system. And this path back is built on 3 principles that are described as totally non-negotiable. First, the search for truth has to, always, be more important than your loyalty to the tribe, even if that's uncomfortable. Second, reason can't just be the key you use to get in the door. It has to be a constant safeguard against error. And finally, your conscience should be educated and informed, absolutely, but it can never be completely outsourced to someone else. Personal responsibility is everything. And this really gets to the heart of it. Asking honest questions, really examining your beliefs, that isn't the enemy of a living faith. It's the lifeblood. It's the very thing that keeps a tradition dynamic and stops it from hardening into a rigid ideology where people feel less liberated and more like they're in a hostage situation. And so that brings us right back to where we started, to the ultimate test. The real value of any belief system isn't found in how big it is or how much power it has. It's found in whether or not it actually makes people better at seeing and dealing with reality. Does it expand their world or does it shrink it? I'm going to leave you with this final, really powerful question from the source. Maybe the ultimate measure is just this. Does a belief system produce people who are humble enough and open enough to be corrected when they're wrong? Or does it produce defenders who just become harder and harder to reach? It's a lens we can apply not just to religion, but really to any group or any ideology we're part of.